Hi guys, it's me. Did you miss me? How was everybody's festive break? Was it okay? Did we all manage to have a little bit of TLC for ourselves? I'm just trying to pop onto my laptop now to check that I am streaming and to make sure that I can see your comments. Let me pop into here. If you're with me, let me know. Say a little hello to me. So we're back with a vengeance now. I probably should have done this with my face in front of the camera to say hello after all this time off. But I've also promised you a little workshop, and so never wanting to disappoint, we're going to jump straight in. Now, today I'm going to run you through a really basic technique to trace off garments that you may already own, that you want to copy the pattern of, that you want to replicate and create in a nicer fabric. I hear you saying, Alex, is this top made for a human the size of an ant? Yes, probably, but but for the setup of my camera, I needed something small enough to fit and also illustrate what we're going to get going with today. So yes, this is a tiny little crop top, but the rules and principles will still apply if you have a t-shirt or a basic garment that you just kind of want to replicate. So I can see a few of you are online with me. Give me a shout. Let me know who's here. Last time I couldn't see your comments, guys. And we all know how much I thrive off of my friends being with me and giving me support. So hopefully if you do comment, I'll be able to see them today. Right, let's jump on in. So there are multiple ways you can trace a basic garment. The most obvious way would be to kind of go around it like so and trace off. And that would genuinely work, guys, especially for something this basic. But just for added accuracy and to give you transferable skills that can be applied to other garments, I'm going to show you a couple of techniques that you can use. So we're going to trace off this little crop top here. First of all, as always, with any kind of pattern cutting, accuracy is king. What you want to do, if you can see here, the little side seam. If I've got this laid down like so, then this is going to be an inaccurate tracing representation because we want to make sure that when we're tracing the front of the bodice and the back of the bodice, that our side seams are rolled right to the edges and they are nice and accurate like so. Another thing that you can do, if I just lay our little straps out, another thing that you can do is take plenty of measurements, and you want to establish where your center front is. So if we go across the hem here, whoop, so that is 28.5, then we'd obviously mark at 14.25. Is that quick maths? Am I right, guys? Someone let me know. Then you'd mark halfway by here. Let me know if you can see that. Halfway by here to establish your centre front. You could do the same armpit to armpit, which is 31.5. So that would be 15.75 maybe. And then along the top here, which is 15.5 or 6 inches would make my life easier. I never work in inches, which would be 3. So you could mark like so. And if you had pins as well, then you could pop them into your garment and you could start to mark your centre front down like that. Once you've established that, you can then fold your garment in half. Another quick way to do is literally just to fold it in half like this. However, if you are working with knit, there is a very high chance after a lot of wear that your garment could have stretched out of shape or kind of warped or anything like that. So if you did want to just ensure that you're working really accurately, it's always the best way to kind of proceed and make sure you get the best results. So another thing you can do is obviously fold it in half like this, or once you've established your centre front, then you could, if we had the edge of the paper here, draft a straight line. I'm just gonna, you don't need a pattern master for this either, guys. You could just get away with a basic ruler and a pencil. You could just draft a line like so, and then once you had your centre front established with your pins, you could align that to your line that you've drafted. So to just give a quick trace on this, I just want to make sure that this is in the shot. The really basic way to do it would be to trace around the edges of your garment. So if we were going to do that, we would come in, fold this in half, do it the cheats way. And I'm just going to square off on this line I've drafted here. Your hem and your centre front are going to be at a right angle. We still want nice straight edges to kind of work with. And so what I can do here, after I have folded this in half, new year, same dogs barking, my friends. They always kick off the moment I want to live stream. So again, you just want to make sure that your side seams aren't rolling in so that we're nice and accurate. Now you can see here the hem's wavering a little. This is what I mean about kind of wear and tear. When you wear it, it can stretch out of shape. I know it's a tiny top, but I am actually quite broad around my ribs. So you can line it in like that. And then this is just a really quick way. If you just kind of sketch around, and we come up here, and we come across here. This is obviously a very, very rough sketch. What you can then do, again, accuracy, is go back in with your tape measure, measure your side seam. This is the first time I'm ever working in inches, guys. So say that's 5 inches. We can then cross-reference it against our random sketchy lines here, and we can put that in and redraw that in, smoother, a nice straight strong line, go back again, go back again, measure that again, make sure that it is matching up with your garment. Another thing you can do with this armhole here is, if I have misplaced it, use one of these bad boys, which is a tracing wheel. Now, be mindful, if this top was made of silk, you do not want to damage it by putting these tracing wheel teeth through your fabric. Something like a t-shirt or a jersey top, this would be absolutely fine. So you could always go around your armholes or any trickier parts like so as well. Which would make it quite easy. I'll show you how to do that when we come to do the back of the garment. So now I'm just gonna draw in here. Again, I know I have a pattern master and this does make your lines, can make your lines more accurate, but you really don't need to invest in one of these for something as simple as tracing this off. You can just get away with rough sketches, guys. As long as it's not like this, and you do go back in and make that a nice smooth line, you'll be able to get away with it. So it's absolutely fine for basic garments. This is all about replicating something from your own wardrobe. This isn't about entering the fashion industry and trying to make it a perfect piece. This is just about your own enjoyment at home. So if we bring this back, another thing I want to mark in here is going to be where my strap goes. Now again, I can measure how wide this strap is, which is 1 centimetre. So we can make sure that we notch this accurately. And then here is our centre front. And so what I'm just going to draw down here is a cut on fold direction to remind myself. I'm going to write here hem, centre front, cut on fold, and then you can obviously label it here, whatever the top is, whatever the size is. Again, this is for home use. Now, you will need to add seam allowance. So let's call this a standard seam allowance of 1 centimetre. Because as we're tracing this out, don't forget, this seam here has obviously been stitched together. So we need to account for that. We're basically drawing out the template and we need to make sure that we're accounting for all of the construction areas that we add on to. Just figured out how to comment. Hi Caroline. Hey Inga. You didn't join late, Kirsty. As always, I'm probably waffling on while I'm just enjoying reconnecting with you guys. How was everybody's Christmas? How was everybody's New Year? I am a self-confessed Grinch and I actually thoroughly enjoyed how low-key it was this year. That made me a little happy bunny. And again, for your hem here, you can become the designer to a certain extent. If you want a thick hem, if you want to add a bit of fringing on the bottom and actually change the design up, that could be really cool. This is about 2 centimeters of a hem, and so I'm just going to make sure that I add that on the bottom as well. And so this would be my front bodice piece. And we just want to square that off. So this would be my front bodice. When we come to do the back bodice, now let me make sure that my makeshift Blue Peter, here's one I did earlier, setup is still good for you to see. You can see here when I flip my top over, the back bodice is hard to sketch around. So unlike these edges that we've just basically gone around with a pencil, this one isn't going to mark the paper because my pencil's not going to get through that front fabric there. Again, this is when you can use your tracing wheel, like so, and you would push through the fabric, making sure that the fabric you're using isn't going to get damaged by the teeth. Or you can pull it to the side, match up your side seams. Just make sure that everything's symmetrical. And then once again, if you're marking your side seams here, you can sketch around like so, and this would be your centre back line there. So if I just quickly do that, my side seams are here. Your hem line is going to want to be straight. And so once we've done that, this is where you can neaten it up. Side seam, and we're going to want to straighten that off on the hemline. And again, you could establish where your centre back is by measuring, marking it with pins, and then you want to cross-reference. So this is a really cheap tape measure I bought off Amazon, and it confuses me. Not that that takes much, guys, but it confuses me. We've got the tiny bit centimetres down here, and you've got inches along the top. I prefer tape measures that are flanked both sides with measurements. If you just have the measurements one side, this can become very irritating when you're pattern cutting and you're working around the garment pieces, the pattern pieces. It can become very, very frustrating. Personal preference. Anyway, so that is 9.5. Oh, no, it's not. That is 10 centimetres along the centre back. And so you want to cross-reference and pop it in there. And maybe when you're doing this, you might wear this top and you might think, not that it could get much smaller, but you might think, oh, I actually want to change the neckline. I love the fit on this area, but I'd like to amend and improve the design on this area. This is your chance to do it, guys. If I didn't want the back to go straight across, then I could certainly, now bearing in mind this is our side seam. Oh, I've never written on this angle before. This is my centre back. There is nothing stopping me from changing the shape of that back here. Whoop, bring that in, to making it go down into a V. Or if I wanted to replicate it straight across, then I could obviously copy my my line there. So if I did want to replicate it down into a V, These are then design changes that we have to take into account when measuring things like the bias binding here. So you could just measure around with your tape measure again, inches or centimeters, whatever you work with. The length of the bias binding, which becomes the straps. You've got bias binding by here. You could use your tape measure to measure around and make a note of that. When you are making bias binding with a stretch fabric, it doesn't actually have to be cut on the bias depending how much stretch and give that you have. If it is a woven, then yes, it will have to be cut on the bias, which is a 45-degree angle. So if you are measuring that bias on the garment itself, but you've changed the back of this bodice panel, you will have to take that into account and measure from your pattern pieces instead. Does that make sense? Do let me know. I've got to just come over to my laptop to make sure I can see your comments, guys, because they're not coming up on my phone. And now my laptop's gone very, very slow. So, centre back, again, you could cut on fold for this, which is by there. Add your seam allowance. You need to add your seam allowance to your side seam. And then you need to add 2 centimeters or whatever you have decided for your hem. And that's it. And that is really, really basic kind of ways to trace existing garments. Always, always, always toile if you have traced off this pattern. You want to cross-reference your pattern to, you want to mark that make sure your side seams are the same length. And just kind of cross-reference everything with measurements, etc. So, I blitzed through it as always, guys. I do apologise, but I hope you found that useful. I do this kind of thing with like boxer briefs or knicker shorts or anything like that. It's a really easy thing to replicate. T-shirts, basic jerseys, they're just really, really easy to get down. And if you're ever in doubt, just cross-reference all of your measurements is the word I'm looking for. Oh, first Monday of the year and my brain is foggy. Any questions, guys, pop them in the comments. When my laptop decides to work, I will get back to you all. Thank you so, so much for joining me. I can't wait to take this year together and see where it takes us. And peace out. I will catch you on the flip side. Love you all. Stay safe. Keep creative.